Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to the nation of Wakanda in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I am the man without fear, Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance Assemble. Volume 138. And, depending on where you are and how you're feeling, I am still feeling under the weather at this point, but I'm here. I do this for you, the people. Brent, I hope you're feeling well tonight.
Yeah, I'm doing fine, but I want it on the record. I said we can find someone to fill in for you. You don't have to push through, but you insisted. You said no. The people demand it. So, well, you didn't say that, but
no,
you did say
that.
You're going to come on.
Yeah. As of yesterday, it was not looking too promising since the voice was failing on me right now. This is much better than what I was for the past couple of days. So it is not COVID. I at least know that.
That's good. Isn't it weird? Everybody feels obligated to say that.
I know.
I'm under the weather. It's not COVID. No, but it could be RSV or flu or one of the other colds that are out there.
I just remember when COVID first started happening, any kind of cough, it would be like when the gun thing. What was that? Allergies. Sure it is.
Well, my niece and nephew just both are getting over the flu. Thankfully, I haven't been around them, but it's like, no, it's still all this other crap is out there.
Yeah, it is. But hopefully, again, so if I sound a little different, sound a little more nasally, there we are. That is why. So, but let us get this lovely show it started at that point. So with the network plugs, we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with 8 shows covering a wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUAPod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we greatly appreciate it. We want to thank our patrons. We cannot do this without your support. We have 2 tiers. We got our dollar tiers, our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then we've got our $5 tier with our ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon exclusive shows, including our show, We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance MCU Rewatch. And Brent, we just recorded episode 11, and what is we detailing with that?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes, Guardians of the Galaxy, and a little bit of a quick review of Groot's first steps, but a great time. So that'll drop in about 2 weeks, so the Monday after the American Thanksgiving.
Yes.
You know, as you're coming down from your turkey lows or highs, however you want to look at it, we've got something to feed your ears, patrons. So again, be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, so if you're watching along with us, you got about 2 weeks to get it in.
Yes, get it in at that point. Hey, and next week we do have a holiday special.
That's true.
Good timing.
It is. Lots of Guardians from us in the next couple weeks.
Synergy. That's what we call this.
I wish I could say we planned it that way, but we didn't. It just worked out that way.
Timing. So, but if you can't join us on Patreon, we totally understand. But if you can rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed, GUA network feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever podcatcher of choice may be, we greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for all your omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with immaculate packaging, excellent customer service, ships around the world. We've got a few more hours before these pre-order discounts go away and the prices increase on Uncanny X-Men Volume 5, Spider-Man by Joe Kelly, Captain Marvel, Janice Vell, X23. So again, check out OPB and use that code MARVELGUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. Lets them know you're a listener, and we want to thank them for being our official sponsor. All right, so a few housekeeping items. Well, as I said earlier, next week is American Thanksgiving. And it's next Thursday, and Brent and I would like to spend time with our families without having to worry about recording the podcast. We love you all. We do, those who watch live and those who listen later. but I love my family, my wife and my kids just a little bit more.
You make it sound like we're just taking all this. A day later, a day later, we will be back.
David might not make it though. I worry about David.
It's all right.
But yeah, we got to think of the children. So we will be doing our live show next Friday night instead of Thursday night. Same time, 9:10 Eastern Standard Time, but on Friday. And we will be reviewing the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. That'll be our main topic. So that, but just if you need content, Black Friday and everything like that for your listening ears, if you're on the Geek Ultimate Alliance feed, Walk Through the Multiverse will drop their newest episode Friday morning. Want to thank Joe again for making the switch one more time. And our episode will drop on Saturday morning for your listening pleasure. So again, next week, live at 9:10 Eastern Standard Time on Friday night. So we want to thank you all. And last but not least, we are doing our GUA November crossover, and it will take place this Friday, or if you're listening to this on Friday, tonight, at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Geekverse Podcast YouTube channel. Hosts from across the GUA network, including myself, Brent, and a few others, will get together to catch up and chat about all the stuff going on in the geek and nerdom world. And remember, Tier 2 patrons at that $5 level, you will get a link to join us live and be a part of the conversation. So check that out again Friday night, this Friday, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. All right. So, main topic tonight, we don't have a show, we don't have a movie, but we do have a couple of interesting news items. And the first one, if you are looking at our background, is Avengers Secret Wars. And it is looking like Kevin Feige is wanting to bring back every major Marvel star that has come throughout its illustrious history, as many of as he can, into Avengers Secret Wars. So this is coming from the Heavy Spoilers YouTube channel. Great channel. I can highly recommend it. He does a great job over there. But he shared a rumor from his sources saying that Marvel Studios' Kevin Feige ultimate plan for the 2026 film is to do this. He wants to feature a scene at least reminiscent of portals in opening of every single pass of the MCU itself. He says Feige's dream and his vision is to have that similar portal scene. However, instead of just being restricted to MCU characters, we'll have multiple Marvel franchises converging at this point. This will include Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Hugh Jackman, several X-Men characters, Fantastic Four ones, and so on and so forth. Kang will have ravaged multiple dimensions at this point, and there will be one final stand against him. Now, wow, that is... I mean, I think when we heard this announcement and we know where they were kind of going, we're all, as our background is from Hickman's Secret Wars, we're all kind of figuring this, but to just hear the idea of that, I mean, yes, Portals was amazing. This will really break the mold if they do what they're thinking. I mean, think about Nick Cage's Ghost Rider just barreling in just for that one quick cameo.
That's not the cameo I'm jumping to that I would want to see. Don't get me wrong, that'd be great. But for me, I don't want just a rehash of Portals. I don't want just a bunch of Portals to start opening up and the Fox X-Men to come out and the Fox Fantastic Four and Ghost Rider and Wesley Snipes' Blade. Now, I'm hoping it would be done differently, but the idea of what they mean of a team up of all these different characters, it would be an amazing spectacle to see. And yes, I'm not looking at history with rose-colored glasses. I think I was first in line to say, dump the Fox X-Men, let's get them over to the MCU. But there was still good stories with them, good characters, some great casting, especially a couple specifics. I would be interested to see how they would act in this capacity. There are certainly specific people that, past iterations of characters that I would be more interested to see than others. But in general, the idea just sounds like a blast, right? It just sounds fun, and that's okay.
Oh yeah, it's like you said. I just don't want like another Portals where they're all just coming out and they all go and fight Kang and his army at that point. It's got to be something more. And like with Feige, they're not about rehashing the same thing over again. Whatever the source is saying, like, I want something like Portals again, how big, he's talking about the moment. He's talking about that kind of spectacle that we all look at, and I still get goosebumps watching it. Just seeing that happen, hearing it. When I even listen to the soundtrack and Portals comes up, it's just like, it takes me back. Now, with the idea of who could come back, I've been hearing a lot of scuttlebutt on, why we haven't seen the X-Men yet. I'm hearing a lot of stuff saying that, this is one of the reasons why of giving the Fox X-Men a proper send-off with this movie.
Sure, and I think that makes sense. I want Feige to have his chance to do the X-Men, like from scratch, his X-Men. Like I want him to have that opportunity to do it, but I appreciate the seemingly acknowledgement of the past. I think we're already getting a little bit of that with Hugh Jackman, but we've seen him do that with Daredevil. We've seen him do that with No Way Home with Toby and Andrew and their respective Spiders. I do appreciate what that he is respecting what came before, and it's important to remember he worked on an awful lot of that, right? Like he worked on the first X-Men movie. Like he's been with what would become Marvel Studios pretty much since the beginning. So I don't think he worked on Blade, if I remember right, but he's been there since super early. So that's kind of revisiting some time for him too. I love the idea of it. Do you have a couple people in mind? Let's take out Toby and Andrew because we've technically seen them. Let's take out Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio because we've seen them as well, technically as well. Like we've already seen them. Do you have a couple people in mind that you would hope that would be on like on the Chris wish list that you would want to see?
Yeah, I'm putting all the MCU players off the board.
None of them count.
I'm assuming Evans, Downey Jr. I'm assuming we're again, that was one of the Fact or Fictions. We're going to get that back. We're gonna get the originals back. I'm just assuming that.
We should have talked before this about it. Like I've got like 3 names that come to mind that I'd really like to see and I think would be fun.
I'm putting Nick Cage in there.
Okay.
All right. I'm putting Ben Affleck in there. And
Ben Affleck was one of mine for the record.
Yeah, Ben Affleck, and I want to see Ian McKellen.
Okay, I dig it. Yep.
What do you got? You got Ben Affleck.
Aside from Ben Affleck, I'm going to go with Chris Evans, but I want to see his Human Torch.
Yeah, Chris Evans twice, so we get to see him both times, and what a moment that will be.
I want to see his Human Torch. And the other one I honestly would like to see is somebody that, maybe in a perfect world could have had a small moment in No Way Home. Nicholas Hammond, the Amazing Spider-Man from the 1977 series, our first live-action Amazing Spider-Man. Yes, it was a TV show. I know technically it aired theatrically. It was released theatrically overseas somewhere. I don't remember the specifics. But I'm going to say it'd be cool for him to pop up in somewhere. Like Old Man Peter or something, right? Like play one of those. Like just for a moment, I think it'd be fun. Like if he really wants to do it. Now, I have no idea how that works as far as the rights to go, but presumably if you already got Toby and Andrew and, of course, Tom Holland's going to be in it, it'd be fun to get that other live action Spider-Man, at least the other American live action Spider-Man, I should say.
Now, what do you think about this? Travis talked about it on Geekverse about, Thanos coming back at that point, but this time being on the quote unquote hero side facing down Kang.
I heard him say that, and I thought that was an interesting idea. It absolutely would be plausible. We've seen this kind of thing before where basically, the enemies team up, basically the villains team up because, well, Thanos, if he wants to overtake over everything, he can't achieve his goal if the universe is no more. So he's got to help save the universe so he can do what he wants to do to, wipe out half of it, I guess. But no, I think it's an interesting idea. And while I wasn't quite ready to see Josh Brolin back, like say when Eternals came out, I do think by the time we get to Secret Wars for sure, if we could see Josh Brolin appear again, like that'd be good. And side note, I'm still hoping he'll play Cable again. But if we saw Josh Brolin again as Thanos, by then, yes, I think that'd be great. And I think that'd be fun to pull it back. And it'd be quite the twist if he was on the side of the heroes on the giving end of a Portals scene, instead of receiving it in his face like that.
Yeah, and kind of going back to what I was saying, giving the Fox X-Men a proper send-off, because some people say, what about the Fantastic Four? It's like, well, they're coming out before this movie. Doesn't mean that they can't be a part of it, but, it's just one of those things that we've heard mutants being uttered by Namor, Miss Marvel. Mutants are coming, but it's a question of, as I said, when it comes to the X-Men, I don't want it shoehorned into this part of the saga if it's not going to work. If it's just going to be pushed in there just to have it, no, I'd rather wait and do it properly if we need to.
Yeah, I'm really conflicted on that. On one hand, I have all the patience in the world because there's plenty of stuff between now and then that I am genuinely excited for. That it's fine. On the other hand, yeah, I want the X-Men also. So it's tough, but the X-Men. I want the X-Men to get their due. I don't want them to be just a cameo in another movie and have that be it. For example, I don't want them to just get shoved out the door super quick with minimal fanfare and stuff. No, like when Marvel Studios X-Men come, it needs to be a big deal. It should be an event. And let's be real, not every Marvel Studios movie is an event, right? Like a lot of them are, but they're not all events, X-Men needs to be an event.
Yeah, it does, especially with the proper opening. So, I mean, could there be a post-credits or something towards the end of the movie about mutants, something happening where now the mutant gene is activated or whatever at the end of this movie? Sure. I mean, the whole point of Hickman's thing, as we talked about, was universes collapsing, universes coming together. There's also a reason why we haven't seen Miles yet in this universe.
I do genuinely hope Miles comes before that, and I would love for Miles to be a part of this. And we know what happened in the comics, Secret Wars. Well, Not the original, but the Hickman Secret Wars basically was the vehicle that brought Miles and Peter into the same universe. I would love for that to happen. Do you think Venom, the Sony Tom Hardy's Venom, will be a part of this?
I'm leaning on no. And I say that on purpose with that tone because a no with a 70 to 80%, is that 20%, 30% chance of a yes, but right now, no, just because there is a reason why just a part of that symbiote is left in our universe and got him out of there. Not saying he could come back in, but I don't know. I just think that I don't know. I think they just want to keep that Tom Hardy's Venom in another place.
I honestly think we will see him. Maybe this would have been a good Fact or Fiction at some point. I should have saved it. I do think we will see him because I feel like if this is Secret Wars, this is the biggest Marvel event ever. I would not at all put it. I would not put it past Sony to say, sure, we're gonna sign off on you using Spider-Man and stuff and multiple Spider-Mans. That's fine, but if you do that, we want Venom to be a part of it as well. And that's probably what happened with No Way Home, and they kind of compromised on the credit scene. Speculation there, I don't know. But I could see it there. And I'm still of the opinion of I would like to see Spider-Man and Venom face off. Granted, I have my issues with the Venoms as is, but this is our Venom for the foreseeable future. So, don't get me wrong. Sign me up for Black Suit, Tom Holland, Spider-Man. But for now, yes, I think Venom is going to appear.
Okay. I mean, I'm not going to be upset about it. Definitely not going to be upset. Now, will Morbius appear? Will it be Morbin time?
If we see Morbius again between now and then, I'm going to say yes, he will appear. But right now, I don't think that's a slam dunk either way. So I strongly think it'll depend on if we see Morbius. And if they happen to do another Morbius solo movie, then yes, it is absolutely he'll be appearing in Secret Wars.
I want to see it's Morbin time one more time to see whatever's left of Twitter break.
Yes, I'll take it.
Yep. All right. Well, before we get into the rest of our news items, we'll take our first ad break for the evening. So as listeners, these ads help keep the lights on at the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud, so give it a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. So, all right, next item, we're going to kind of dabble what is now part of the MCU and looking at Deadpool 3. So some interesting news with this, and we're always wondering about this movie, about is this going to be Deadpool kills the Fox universe? Is this just a simple road trip through the multiverse with Logan? Well, new rumor coming from Daniel RPK's Patreon saying that via at Deadpool Update, he said, revealed that Owen Wilson is set to reprise his role as Mobius in Deadpool 3, saying that we'll have a big role in Deadpool 3. Who will reprise his role as Mobius from Loki. Should this be true, Wilson would be Deadpool 3's 4th confirmed cast member, along with Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, and Leslie Uggams, Blind Al. So according to Daniel RPK, Ryan Reynolds has plans to revisit the other Fox franchise in Deadpool 3, including the original Fantastic Four from 2005. So they're still in the early stages. This is starting to sound even bigger of a multiverse movie than, it's getting even bigger at this point. With Mobius comes the TVA. So now follow me here for a second.
I just thought of a scenario. But
okay.
Go ahead and then I'll say it.
So follow me for a second. Could the TVA employ Deadpool to take out these universes? Oh God, I gotta go off mic.
It sounds fun. Yes, that sounds amazing. The idea I was thinking of is they already have that credit scene in Deadpool 2 where he goes back in time to the first incarnation of Deadpool and Wolverine Origins and he kills it. And shoots it repeatedly, just keep shooting it. Well, now they could revisit it and have Owen Wilson's Mobius appear to try and stop that, to threaten to prune him. It's like, no, you're causing these timeline branches and stuff. I don't know. What's interesting about this to me, like the most interesting thing is, one, I did not expect Owen Wilson to. I think that's great. I find him hilarious. I'm very excited about this. Would love to see him play off of these other of Reynolds and Jackman, etc. But this is the first Marvel Studios character to be announced be rumored, reported on as being a part of this movie. It's the first Marvel Studios character. The others have all been Fox characters. And so it is nice to see that they truly are just kind of bridging that gap some. I'm excited to see that. Even if Mobius only appears in the equivalent like length of time of a cameo, it's still cool because it's connecting those dots, and I'm really excited for that.
Well, I mean, like we said, you say cameo. I mean, again, rumors, scoopers, what have you, RPK, C+ leaning on B- territory at that point. But, saying
he talks, I listen.
Yeah. But saying it's a major part of it at that point. That's why I say you bring him in, you bring in the rest of the TVA. That's why I like the idea of employing him to be their, new program. Because again, we don't know the status of Mobius post Loki season 2. Like, in the sense, I'm not saying like not alive, but we're dealing with a different Mobius as we enter in season 2. We're not dealing with the Mobius that we came to know and love in season 1. So that'll also be interesting to see where we're at the end of season 2. Do we get a cameo of leaning towards where we're going with this, or he just suddenly shows up? That
oh my
could be
God, a Deadpool cameo in Loki season 2. That sounds amazing.
It legitimate. I mean, we were talking. We were always talking about how like certain things one of the things I really missed, and I understand why they did it, budget, whatever, is that when we saw all the time bombs started going off in the branches, I thought that next episode we really were going to see some different timelines. We didn't. Okay. It's budgets and everything like that, but that's something I wanted to see.
Sure, absolutely, because what was that, episode 2? The ending of that was like mind blowing, right? And it would be fun even if they did something like picked up from one of those, showed us one of those timelines. Like that would be amazing. Yeah. Yes, I'm all about this. I think this sounds great. Deadpool is without a doubt my favorite movie. Like Deadpool and Deadpool 2, those are my favorite movies from the Fox X-Men universe. The one thing I was like, oh, I'm going to miss that when Marvel or when Disney bought Fox was Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. Yeah. So for me, getting to still get another one as part of Marvel Studios, incorporate a Marvel Studios character. Yeah, you're bringing back Hugh Jackman, and everyone knows the Reynolds-Jackman bromance is just fantastic. I cannot wait for this one. I am really excited for this one.
Yeah, and I remember when, like you said, the worry was, okay, Deadpool's not part of it. Then they said, when they broke the story, it's like, Kevin Feige is saying, yes, it's a part of it. It's going to be part of the MCU. It's going to be rated R. I can lean on what Travis Snell said at that point. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm a little concerned. And now more and more is coming out that's giving us more faith, especially with everything he's putting out. So this is becoming a lot more fun and a lot better than I would have ever imagined this.
And you know what? The whole rated R thing, it is still possible to go PG-13. And if they do, I hope fourth wall breaking Deadpool realizes that he can't cuss, or he only has one, and I hope Logan steals it from him and uses it. But if it's going to be rated R, that's great. That's fine. I do kind of believe that that's the way they're going to go with. Like, I could see them sticking with that. I could see Reynolds saying, yes, I'll do more, but I want to do it this way. And Feige going along with him on it, especially because there's a recent rumor where we don't even have in our breakdown tonight to talk about because it's sketchy still, that Deadpool Born Again might be TVMA, like the Deadpool series, or the Daredevil Born Again. Deadpool Born Again. Interesting. Daredevil Born Again might be TVMA, like the Netflix show was. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that there's even rumors going around of these things, like, it starts to give credibility on itself. Of course, they still have to deliver one, right?
Yeah.
But what's the supposed rating of What If? We'll see what happens with that show. But what's the rating with What If? That was also supposed to be TVMA, if I remember correctly. And so I don't believe that these things have to be those ratings, but the fact that they are doing it means or there's this much talk about it, means it is more likely that it's going to happen.
Yeah. So again, very interesting rumor. Did not see that one coming, but it brings this whole. It really does bring Deadpool really properly into this multiverse saga. So that's, man, just seeing that in the phase, Deadpool 3 is just like, it's happening. It's really happening. So, all right, we go from some, two news stories back to back. That's some very interesting, some happy news to. We're getting a little concerned, and we're blocking it at that point. It's kind of hard to figure that out. But Spider-Man freshman year and Marvel Animation may be in some serious trouble with some rumors going around. So let's flash back to the summer. At SDCC earlier this year, Marvel Studios dedicated an entire panel to discuss their upcoming Marvel projects. While there, it brought up some of the ideas of I Am Groot, X-Men 97, Marvel Zombies, and one of the highlights was Spider-Man freshman year. So this is coming from Cosmic Circus. They broke this as an exclusive with their crew. And all of a sudden this week we started hearing some pretty concerning stuff about the animation department. Majority of them getting ready to get laid off or have been laid off. Mm-hmm. We're like, what's going on? I mean, we still got What If Season 2 that's getting ready to come out. X-Men 97, like, what's going on? So when they put out the story, it gave some context and definitely want to give credit where credit is due with them for kind of breaking this down and kind of as I get into this, they definitely gave some reasons like, okay, it's not good, but all is not lost. So what they're hearing from their sources is that Spider-Man freshman year is still set to premiere at some point in 2024. Right now, the several members of the production crew and the animation team behind the first season of the show is being laid off. The sources are stating that the first season will air in fall of 2024. The idea that the show might get canceled has been floated around, but that's currently what it is, just an idea, not something that's been acted upon yet. However, before moving forward with sophomore year, which is what the second season is supposed to be titled, they're going to gauge the interest from the audience worldwide to see how this carries. So depending on how popular the series becomes, it could be a great success and they bring back the team or put in some more people at that point. But there's also a factor of budget cuts that are currently taking place at Marvel Studios, not just in terms of animation. And so they brought in some of the ideas of what they're also hearing at this point with, we knew Charlie Cox was coming back as Matt Murdock Daredevil. They'd also heard rumors that Vincent D'Onofrio would be reprising his role as Kingpin and giving the voice to it. There was such a lot of welcoming of like, wow, this is going to be a really interesting show, and just to see and hear not just budget cuts, but like the whole team basically almost being laid off at this point. It's just like, what is going on? Is Marvel Studios with these budget cuts like really just walking away from animation at this point and cutting their losses even before they really give it a chance to survive? What do you think about this, Brent?
It's hard. It sucks because, I mean, first and foremost, it sucks when people have to lose their jobs. And so obviously we don't want to see anyone losing their jobs. And it's not lost on either of us that is the most important thing. With that caveat, with a little bit of an asterisk, it kind of breaks the streak if this show does not actually come out, because technically every single Marvel Studios thing that they have formally announced has seen release, slightly different forms. The asterisk is because Inhumans was originally announced as a movie under Marvel Studios and it got moved to a TV show under Marvel Entertainment. But I obviously was super hyped about the Spider-Man Daredevil crossover that the show was going to give me. I love to see more of them, but in general, it's disappointing because this is a project that I was looking forward to. And no, I wasn't looking forward to it in the same way that I'm looking forward to Secret Invasion or Ironheart or Armor Wars or whatever. Like those live action things that, yes, I do care more about. Sorry, Heinz, don't listen. But as a supplemental material, I was really looking forward to this. And that's that's just how I would have viewed it, as supplemental material. So I am hoping that it works out, that they are able to complete this and it comes out, even if it only ends up being one season and we don't get that Spider-Man sophomore year, whatever. I'm still hoping that we at least get to see what they've been working on at this point. That said, number one, I feel like give me X-Men 97. Like I will, even over this Spider-Man with the Daredevil and stuff, I will give me X-Men 97 first, and then the rest of it can just be gravy.
Yeah, it gave me some hope that we're going to see this by how confident their sources are. And again, Cosmic Circus has been definitely, I do not qualify them as a broken clock scooper, as my term goes. They definitely, Lizzie and her team over there have been really doing a good job with not only breaking stories, but also giving some, hey, this is a real rumor. They're not trying to be as clickbaity as some of the other people are, but the hope that they gave, like, the freshman year is still set to come out. And I'm very confident. I'm personally very confident that X-Men 97 is still going to come out, even if it's just one. I mean, we've seen the voice actors recording their dialogue. We've seen the animation at that point. I'd be very hard pressed to say that that is not. What I kind of worry about, though, is Marvel Zombies, just a bit. I worry about that one just a bit, especially since we're also hearing now it's just going to be 4 episodes. We don't know what the length of those episodes are, but we haven't heard too much outside of what we've heard from SDCC. And then I think it was Zeb Wells that's going to be working on that, saying it's 4 episodes.
Yeah, but hopefully, because it's only 4 episodes, they are able to at least get that one season of it in the can and done, and we will get to see it. And yeah, the thing with the 4 episodes, that came out months ago at this point. I don't remember when exactly, but it's been a long time. And I mean, I genuinely hope we get to see all of these projects, but I don't know. It feels like X-Men 97 is the furthest along. What If, they already have a lot of it, and they basically had a whole episode in the can from last season that they were unable to finish at the time. And then What If is taking character models effectively out of Marvel Zombies out of what they did with What If, and then expanding on it there. I'm really not, like, to me, freshman year is the biggest wild card. So hopefully we get to see them all. If that's it, if that's all Marvel Studios animation does, is that disappointing? I mean, I guess it is, and I only say it that way because so far I enjoyed What If, I enjoyed I Am Groot, but will we continue to enjoy them all? I mean, I have faith that I would, but they kind of got to prove themselves on the animation front in a way that Marvel doesn't have to on the live action front, and I don't think so far one series of shorts and one series, is the definitive proof of it. So we'll see, but hopefully, even if it's delayed by like a year, we'll ultimately get to see all of these shows. And if it's got to be delayed, that's fine. We don't want the artists, the creatives to be overworked the way the VFX teams have been. So I am perfectly content if freshman year, let's say it was scheduled for a year from now and they now need to push it back 2 additional years. Okay, push it back 2 additional years. I'll be here to watch it when it comes out.
Now, my question is, besides the obvious budget, why the panic regarding animation? Basically you're owned by a company that they started in animation. So why are they just like, they made such a huge deal about it a couple of years ago, especially when What If was coming out, saying, hey, we're building a whole studio around this. We're going to do some projects with this. I would like to know what happened.
I think for me, my best guess would be shows that go to Disney Plus. there's not a direct revenue model that you can say, I spent X number of dollars and I made X plus Y number of dollars on its release. And so since all of these are, at least to date that we know about publicly, are meant to be Disney Plus projects, it is harder to show the revenue there. And so if they're looking at their animated releases and they're like, oh, we're just not making as much money on, series like the Monsters University, Monsters at Work, I think it was, whatever that one was called, and some other animated shorts that they've done, and maybe the Disney Plus, basically the people who are running that part of it have said, we don't want to fund those things right now. So that's why we're scaling it back. Pure speculation. Haven't heard anything, haven't read anything. It's just kind of reading the tea leaves. It's a lot easier to justify a $200 million movie when it's pulling in $900 million, like say Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, than it is a project where you have no direct model for it. Because I don't really see these being service sellers. Like, is there really anybody who's going to subscribe for X-Men 97 or Spider-Man Freshman Year who is not already subscribed to Disney Plus? Like, I would love to talk to that person. But, like, because if you're a big enough of Marvel fan to subscribe for those, you're already subscribed, right? So they really just boil down to retention. But there's enough other Marvel stuff, not to mention the massive overlap and Venn diagram of Star Wars, to keep people retained anyway. So at least that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, budget cuts. I get it. I don't want anyone losing their job. It's one of those things. I feel for those. I feel for those that cast and crew who've been working on this for so long. It's one of those things where I get where you have to see where your true moneymakers are, and you got to get it out. And I've been hearing more from people that really, I guess I didn't hear about it the first time. Like, I've heard some very much, I think, I really hated What If. I did not like this. I did not like that about it. But, again, to each their own. It's, I enjoyed, I'm not saying every episode was great, but I enjoyed the majority of it. And I think it presented some good ideas. Now, I can understand if people didn't like the animation style of it. I mean, that's one thing about it. But I thought it was a cool concept. And, what I think DC has done a good job with is really leaning into and continuing their kind of animated features to kind of get audiences and connect them in a different way. Is it as big of a moneymaker as live action? Doesn't even compare. You can't even compare the two. But to your point, Brent, these do not seem to be, at least on the Marvel side, sub movers. But to your point, someone who's not going to say, I'm subscribing for X-Men 97. No, you're subscribing for the bigger IP as a whole.
I mean, let's call it how it is. You brought up DC, and while I have certainly had plenty of issues with their animation that have come out recently, they've had some good gems in there as well. They've had, I think, some stinkers, a lot of stuff that was mediocre for me, and they've had a couple really good solid ones. I'm a minority opinion on that. You look at what people talk about with DC's animated projects, and it is predominantly positive. Like those have been very successful projects, and that's just that line of movies, their shared universe of movies. They've also, DC has arguably since the days of X-Men in the 90s has unquestionably just trounced Marvel in the animation department. And even then, it'd be hard to argue because they had Batman and Superman at the same time Spider-Man and X-Men was going on. And so Marvel in general I really do feel like they need to do more with animation. I know they have that Spidey and His Amazing Friends for the little kids right now, but outside of that, is there anything animated animated Marvel going on right now?
Like currently? I mean, no.
Current stuff. I know Spectacular Spider-Man just got put on, I think, Netflix. There's the Ultimate Spider-Man show, which my son likes to watch a bunch, but none of those are still active, right? And I don't think there's anything with any other characters. And so Marvel does, you got to bring in those new fans, right? Even if it is just more shows like Spidey and His Amazing Friends for the little guys and the little girls, you gotta bring in more. So I do want them to do more animation in general, more younger skewing animation. Obviously, Marvel Zombies is not the one. You say people were talking about not liking What If. I maintain that my biggest issue with that series is I felt like every single episode needed 5 to 7 more minutes of runtime. They all just felt super rushed, wrapping up. But that Doctor Strange one in episode 4,
Oh boy,
that
yeah.
is some fantastic storytelling, and several other episodes were just straight up fun. And so even if I do think they needed a couple more minutes, several of them were still a blast. And for me, none of them were straight up stinkers. I enjoyed all of them at one level or another. So hopefully it works out. I would love to see more animation stuff from them. Again, as in my opinion, supplemental material to the main events of the live action stuff. And maybe not your service sellers, but they do help with retention a little bit, and they help, close in some of the gaps. Not unlike how, say, I look at Star Wars The Bad Batch, which I like it well enough, but for me, that's like, it's a little bit of a Star Wars fix between, seasons of Mando, or Mando and Kenobi, or Andor, or whatever.
Yeah, so we'll have to see with that. Not pleasant news, but hey, we hope for the best, and if we get some of this, great. But for those of you, for that casting crew that's been let go at that point, the animators as well, hopefully they find a place and don't have to be out of work too long at that point. But we'll just have to continue waiting to see. Not the best of news, but all right, Brent. Last news story of the night is looking at box office. So I'll let you take that away. Looking at the first weekend for Wakanda Forever.
Sure, Wakanda Forever had a pretty strong box office, not as strong as I had anticipated myself. I'm pretty sure if I remember right, I said 217, I think is what I called.
Yeah, and I called 212.
Last week? You called 212. You were a little more conservative than I was. Well, we both lose in the Price is Right game of it, because it really came in at 181. That said, it's the biggest November opening of all time domestically. 181. That's a strong opening. I should have looked up what Multiverse of Madness did and Love and Thunder to compare. I didn't. I don't know. It is what it is. Worldwide total as of today, as of right now, at the time of this recording, is $400.4 million. So they've crossed the 4 million mark. Am I as confident today that they're going to hit $1 billion as I was a week or two ago? No, I'm honestly not. But that first one made $1.3 billion. They're not going to get to that. I would be stunned if it got to that. But that said, there's really very little true competition for the next couple weeks. So there's plenty of time. I'm still intending to see it at least one more time in theaters. I just got to work out the timing of when that's going to be. Hopefully I'm able to do that, though. It's going to be a hit. It's definitely going to be a moneymaker, and it's, regardless of how it does at this point, is not going to change any of Marvel's plans going forward for this cast of characters.
Yeah, I mean, if we're not hitting $1 billion at this point, where do you see it hitting? Final run.
That is a great question. I would say, all right, 400. So if they did 181. Recent projections have been like 70 million for the next weekend. Absolute floor of 800 million. Absolute floor. But I'd probably say more like in the 900s.
Yeah. I'm gonna be conservative. I'm gonna say between 8 and 830.
Okay. 8 and 830. Yeah, I mean, and that's a great, like, you get up to that $800 range, like, that's really strong. I mean, 700 is nothing to sneeze at either, but those are like the big money makers when you start getting to that level.
And people, like, not definitely in our circles at that point, but you hear about it saying, "Oh, it's a failure. Didn't hear that. It's not going to hit $1 billion." It's like, we've got to understand, even in a post-pandemic world and things like that, $1 billion is still not an easy thing to sell. I mean, right, to make. Even now, people are even saying, like, I'm not sure if Avatar is even going to hit $1 billion at that point. It's going to be a very interesting thing. I mean, even Cameron's saying that, hey, if the sequel doesn't work out, I've got a plan for how to end this with the third one, and we're not going to make 7. That's even he's to be believed about that. It is a success. This movie is a success. The fact that it crossed in basically in a week, got $400 million worldwide. That's nothing to sneeze at.
No.
Absolutely not.
I don't think you could at all claim it's anything but a success. I went ahead and looked up the other Marvel entries this year. Love and Thunder opened with 144 million domestic, so about 35-ish million less. And they topped out at 745, whereas Multiverse of Madness actually made a little bit more its opening weekend at 187, and that run ended at 952. So I feel your 850 to my 900 range, like, that feels like a pretty good solid range based on how the rest of the year has gone for Marvel Studios.
Yeah, all in the game in the chat saying it's 95% Rotten Tomatoes audience score, third highest in the MCU. A Cinema score, second highest, 93% post-track score, third highest, suggests that GA is loving it and will have longer legs than both Multiverse of Madness and Love and Thunder, which came in lower in all three scores. 2 hours and 41 minutes is the biggest. Yeah, and that is, and I'll definitely give a shame. I don't own anything with this, but I just finished watching The Offer on Paramount Plus, looking at the behind the scenes of how The Godfather came to be. Great, amazing miniseries on Paramount Plus. But one of the big things that they were harping on was the runtime of that movie. Runtimes equals, how many less showings you get in a day. And one can't ignore that. And they held to their guns and they got less showings for it. But again, it's one of those things that it's a business model. You're right. You're exactly right on the game. That will affect how many times that movie can be shown and how many people go to it. This is not an easy movie to sell. Like if you were bringing your 10 or 12-year-olds, this is not an easy one for them to sit through. Not in the sense of like what's being put on the screen, but necessarily almost what by time previews are done, almost a 3-hour movie.
So I think it's worth mentioning because absolutely right. You'd lop off 20 minutes of screen time on this, or even 10 minutes. You're getting an extra showing in a day, right? That said, since well before Spider-Man: No Way Home, I don't remember my theater anyway. So this is pure anecdotal. I don't remember my theater having showings for anything before noon. And on the last Friday, my second viewing of this, the one I went to with David, we went to a 9:45 a.m. showing. And I just looked, and this Saturday there are some 10 a.m. showings. There's a 9:45 of Black Adam. There's some 10 a.m.s of Black Panther. So they are definitely getting more, at least again, anecdotally, more screenings in by opening the theater earlier and, getting an extra movie, maybe even an extra showing in prior to the start of when they traditionally would go. So if they're going to keep doing that kind of thing, to me, that's just showing theater confidence in this movie.
Yeah.
And I went ahead and looked up the Rotten Tomatoes, which I frankly forgot all about in the last week. It's like 85% from the critics and 95%, like All in the Game said, for the audience. That score these scores are great.
Yeah.
It's all great. Like even if it doesn't match the first one, like this is a success and it's going to be a success. There's no question about it. There's no room for it. Like I think by any measurable standard, this is a success and that's fine. And that works. And I'm super excited to see where the Black Panther cast of characters is going to go next.
Yeah. And if you're paying attention, Winston Duke did acknowledge that M'Baku is the king of Wakanda. So
which, as we talked about, it fits the character, it fits the movie. Awesome. Yep. I'm excited for it. Bring it on,
Yeah, exactly. So, again, to many, this is the top of Phase 4 for many people, and I cannot necessarily fault them for putting it at the top. Again, please show me again. And this is a movie that is driven very obviously a very personal and very personal story for so many people in this cast, for people like us as fans at that point. A movie led by people of color does this, and to many people it's like, oh, these movies don't make money. They just did. All right. They just showed a whole bunch of people at that point. So this is not a failure. This is a rousing success. And again, it will, like we both say, it's got no competition for a couple more weeks at that point till probably mid-December. It will continue to grow and the audience will continue to prove that this is a great movie to see. So, but any more we got left on this one?
No, I think we're good for there. Maybe we'll check back into the box office in a couple of weeks when we get a little closer to the end of its run. At this point, yes, I want to see it one more time theatrically, but I am also excited for that Disney Plus release. Who knows when that'll be? You pointed out to me 45 days is around Christmas time. It'd be a good Christmas present, just saying. But if it's still making money, the first one was in theaters a long time. So. Yeah.
And definitely some rumors are saying that they're probably going to hold this one off until 2023. Again, no big deal. It's going to come to Disney Plus. I'm not too worried about that. So.
Whenever it comes, sometime within the next couple of weeks of it being on Disney Plus, I'll watch it, and I really look forward to it.
Yep. So, All right, so that is all the news for this week. So we're going to take our final ad break before we get into listener feedback, Factor Fictions, and Comic Book Club. So as you know, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud, so give you that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. So, Brent, what do we got for listener questions?
Yeah, I had a couple sent in this week. First one is from DC Outlaw, and it is related to Wakanda Forever. So consider this a spoiler warning. If you still haven't seen that movie, I would be shocked, genuinely surprised if there's anyone listening right now who hasn't. But just in case, for one more week, and then I think after this week, we're just going to declare it, fair game.
Well, I just ruined that one with what I said earlier, so.
Well, that's true. Well, all right. Well,
my bad for not saying spoiler warning, people. Sorry.
At least it's related to this, So, from DC Outlaw, with Shuri allowing M'Baku to become the new king of Wakanda, do you think she will become a permanent member of the new Avengers team?
I'll say yes. I mean, right now, she is our Black Panther. I don't, right now, foresee that changing. Yes, people would say, with, quote unquote, the controversy surrounding her beliefs and things she said, things that she's done, what have you, she is our Black Panther. So we're going to move forward. I'm going to be, yes, she will be a member of the new Avengers team.
I think if that controversy was going to come back up and be an issue for her, for Marvel at this point, it would have already come up. So I don't really see that. And hey, Twitter's going under, right? So it's not going to come up from there. Permanent member of the Avengers. The only thing that makes me hesitant on that is what is considered a permanent member? Do I think she will say go on every single mission? No, not necessarily. But do I think she will be a member of the team? She shows up, she's considered an Avenger? Yes, I do. I do think that will be the case. And hey, you could make an argument that she already was considered a member of the team because she was at Portals, and Steve kind of called everybody Avengers there. So maybe.
And I did like during the movie when she had her kind of guns on her hands at that point that she had from the first Black Panther movie. That was I enjoyed that moment.
Oh yeah.
So what else you got? We got one more question, right?
Yes. MCU related, but not Wakanda Forever specific. From Amari Daniels, who in the MCU do you feel either died too soon or wasn't utilized as well as they could have been? For me, it's Ben Urich in Daredevil. The death was surprising and important, but I wish he was still around to work with Matt and maybe even meet Spider-Man. Pre-She-Hulk, I would have said, let's put a caveat on that. Was that the MCU or not? But I will accept it right now. So anyone in the MCU that you feel underutilized or that the character themselves died too soon?
I will go with, kind of a dark horse, and people might be surprised. I say Malekith, I think, was a very poorly done villain for the movie, and I think that he could have been a villain that didn't have to be wiped out from Thor. I think that the way he's portrayed in the comics and done in the comics is a lot more menacing, a lot more figure. If I have to do kind of a character that I think could have been better, not saying I disliked what was done, but I think there could have been more about it, is Drax.
Fair. Maria Hill is always the first character I think of for an underutilized character. Definitely feels like someone they could do more with. I don't really have a good answer for character who's died. I like the Malekith one. I hadn't considered him. That's a pretty good call there. Okay. I would like to joke and say Daredevil. He's only been in the one thing in costume and one other thing. No, Brock in the chat there. I'm not saying Mephisto. He's not underutilized because he hasn't been utilized yet, but he's coming. Actually, my real answer.
Who is that?
Who? My real answer to this is going to be the Nova Corps, because we've seen the Nova Corps, but we really haven't seen Nova yet. And regardless, I feel like they've been very underutilized. We've saw them in Guardians 1. That was pretty much it, right? So I'm going with the Nova Corps as my underutilized. And hey, a bunch of them probably got killed in the when Ronan attacked. So I guess they can be my answer for that part of it as well.
Here, I'll give you one, Brock. It's not an MCU, but Marvel at that point. Cyclops. Cyclops was underutilized.
Can I say Colleen Wing and Misty Knight.
Yes, you
The
can
two of
definitely
them.
say that.
Can that be
yes.
my answer?
Yes.
I
that
mean,
can be your
if we're
answer.
going on the Ben Urich one, which I agree, Ben Urich was fantastic in that show, then I'm going to go ahead and say the Daughters of the Dragon show that, we never got and I someday would still like to get.
Yeah, so, all right. Well, thank you both for sending those questions in. And Fact or Fictions, I was like going back, said, where are those Fact or Fictions? Oh, yeah, we didn't do one last week because we had a movie review, so I had to go back to 2 weeks.
2 weeks ago, yep.
In our timeline. So, all right. Fact or Fiction number 1. Black Panther Wakanda Forever will make a total of $1 billion by the end of its theatrical run. 90% said fact, 10% said fiction. Both Brent and I are stepping back on our
we
fact.
were facts, but we're,
We were.
further evidence, we're maybe not so much anymore.
We're entitled to make a change based on the current evidence at hand. All right, number 2, the next MCU Spider-Man movie will feature a villain that we have not seen on the big screen before. 63% said facts, 37% said fiction. And the last one, Venom 3 will continue the trend that the villain will be another symbiote, but it will not be Null.
You would.
I would, just because. I cringed when it happened in the trailer, and thank God they corrected it after that. 67% said fact, 33% said fiction. All right, Brent, it is your turn this week. What do you got?
All right, a couple of Black Panther related ones, and then something different. We're going to start off with, we will see at least one Wakandan appear in the Ironheart show.
I will say fact. I will definitely be a hard fact on that one. Who it'll be, I would say maybe Shuri. I think Shuri could make a surprise appearance. That would be one of those cameos like, oh my gosh, she's in it. She won't be in Black Panther gear, but she probably could be that surprise one that people's like, oh shoot, didn't see that one coming.
Actually, I'm a fact. I think the most likely would actually be Okoye at this point. She is a little more of a free agent now than like Shuri might feel as the Black Panther. I'd put an asterisk next to Gria, the AI that Trevor Noah voiced. Is Shuri's AI, but obviously Riri Williams was able to use him and utilize his capabilities as well. We'll put an asterisk next to him. I could see them going that way as kind of a twist on who her AI was in the comics, the former Tony Stark.
True.
All right, next up. Namor will get a solo movie spinning out of Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Fact. It's happening.
So when I first wrote this, I would have said fiction because I was under what I think is now the incorrect assumption that the Namor rights were tied up like the Hulk rights with Universal having distribution. But since then, and since Wakanda Forever came out, I've seen some things that basically heavily imply that that's not true, that the Namor rights were part of the Fox catalog of characters. And if that's the case, there's nothing stopping them. So I'm now going to go ahead and say fact.
All right, and your last one.
All right, switching it off of from that to a Deadpool 3. Hugh Jackman will wear a Wolverine costume with the mask in Deadpool 3.
I'll go for 3 for 3 tonight. Fact, not just that the heart wants it, but I think, again, if Ryan is leaning into as much as he wants with this, because not knowing the future Deadpool after this movie, at that point, let's go for broke on this one. Let's finally see it. He's been about the fans. He knows how much the fans wanted to see it and how much we felt generally were cheated out of that. We will see it.
I'm going to go fact. I do think if it happens, it'll be like one scene. Like, Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool is in the costume like almost the whole movie, right? At least of Deadpool 2. I don't see that happening. But I think we will see Hugh Jackman in a proper Wolverine costume with that glorious Wolverine mask. And yes, please. I'm here for it.
All right. Well, I will post those on Sunday afternoon, so be on the lookout for that. Let your voices be heard. So, all right, let us go to our comic book club, Uncanny X-Men number 100. So we come to a milestone issue, as it were. And, I love the cover of this one. X-Men versus X-Men, Professor X out of his wheelchair, crushed behind him at that point, standing up
Yeah,
fighting
nothing
to the death.
suspicious about that at all.
No, nothing at all at that point. What did you think about this issue?
I really enjoyed this one. This was a lot of fun seeing these X-Men fight off together. I am brain farting hard though. Is this the first time we saw the fastball special with Colossus and Wolverine? Is it because they do it in this one? Did it happen earlier in this run? Because if it did, I'm not remembering right now.
If it did at that point, it had to have been in the Danger Room at that point. I know they kind of alluded to it earlier, but I think this is like I would say the first time we've seen it like outside of the Danger Room.
This one, I love that moment. This whole issue was a blast, and the whole time, obviously, like something's up with the X-Men, right? Like the original guard, the OG5, whatever they're called, the O5, I guess. It's something's up with them. They're not. This isn't how they normally would act. Well, sure enough, they're basically Sentinels, right? And like, okay, all right, I dig it. They're Sentinels. A lot of fun there. It was cool to see the X-Men rip into them, and once like Cyclops and Jean were able to escape and do their thing, what I didn't expect though was to basically get to that moment leading into the Phoenix Saga where Jean is like flying the ship. She takes the abilities and knowledge to fly this spaceship home from the pilot, and then locks everyone up where they can be saved. God, that comic show is just the X-Men animated series. It's just so dang accurate with that. They just nailed it, right? So I did not actually anticipate that to start in this issue because this was going to be the last one we were going to do, but it says to be concluded at the end. I'm like, oh, I think we miscounted.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, no, the splash pages on this one were outstanding, just fun to read. It is original X-Men versus the quote-unquote the new X-Men. And yeah, when in the end we find out that the quote-unquote originals were basically Sentinels, Terminators, whatever you want to call them at that point. But it was just really cool to see some of these, matches going off at that point. Who could take down who, even though, yes, the originals were robots at that point. But it was just a lot of fun. This was an issue that's saying, yeah, this needs to be nonstop action. Absolutely nonstop action. And especially just, like you said, the fastball special. Beast facing down Nightcrawler, which, you think about saying, you're right, he is Beast replacement. He may not be in the sense of like girth, muscles size department, but yeah, he's basically in the agility department. Yeah, he's Beast replacement. So that was kind of cool seeing that, and then kind of getting the revelation that what our villain in this one was trying to do the whole time. But you're right, when it gets down to, oh wait, this is the beginning of the Phoenix Saga. I'd totally forgotten about that, and the goodbyes that Jean putting Logan in his place, putting Cyclops to sleep, and saying her goodbyes to Aurora, the Storm. It was just like, oh man, people thought that this was going to be it for Jean at that point.
Yeah, so it's a fun issue, right? Like I think this is one that I really enjoyed, more than several other ones. Just this revisiting the X-Men from this era has been a blast. I'm really glad that we ended up settling on this as one of the choices, and then of course the listeners voted on this one. But okay, so it does say to be concluded there. So what's the plan?
So yeah, so we're gonna extend this one more week with this at that point. So we are going to extend it to issue 101 to kind of bring it to conclusion. I kind of read a little ahead, didn't read the whole next issue, but I feel like 101, the end of 101, yeah, it starts something else, but I feel we're in a better place ending it right there. So one more week, Kenny X-Men, we will read that for one more week, and then the following week we will begin Marvel Zombies. So, all right, so got some news, got some good discussions going on, so we're going to bring volume 138 to a close. Again, reminder to listeners, we will be going live next Friday night, 9:10 Eastern Standard Time. Our main story will be looking at the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Brent, tell people how they can follow you, and yeah.
BritTech Prime on TikTok. I'm just going to say that one for now, because who knows what's going on with the other place I like to hang out.
Well, I will continue saying you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balg. You can follow me at my other show, World's Finest True Believers, at Finest Believers. You can follow this show on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can Follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network at UA Pod Network. Again, want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. Email us, ask us, DM us as long as it continues to be opening. Fact or fiction questions you have, everything along those lines. And continue to rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed, GUA feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcatchers of choice may be. Thank you all for listening. For those of you that celebrate American Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Be safe. Enjoy the family time. Think about what you're thankful for. And thank you all for listening. Thank you all for joining us live in the chat. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, Brent, for post-credits tonight, we've gone back and forth. I think I've changed post-credits like 3 times for this one episode alone.
I think this is the third story.
Yep, this is the third time at that point, but stories got a little bit better at that point, And this one came out very late today, but it brought about some very, very interesting kind of updates at that point. Sony announces, this is coming from the Hollywood Reporter, Sony announces new Spider-Man TV universe incoming. So they say that Angela Kang is trading zombies for superheroes. The Walking Dead showrunner has moved her overall deal from AMC to Amazon and has signed on to oversee Silk Spider Society, the first in an expected slate of Marvel TV series based on the Sony Pictures universe that feature more than 900 characters. It will be executive produced by Phil Lord and Chris Miller from Into the Spider-Verse. It will first air domestically on the MGM Plus, the premium cable network currently known as Epix, and then globally on Amazon Prime's video platform. So this is the first update we have seen for Silk. We now have a full title for this series, Silk Spider Society. We now have our showrunner. We have our executive producers. This is kind of a big deal. Silk is based off the character created by Dan Slott and Humberto Ramos. The character is inspired by the Marvel Comics and follows Cindy Moon, a Korean-American woman bitten by the same spider that bit Peter Parker, as she escapes imprisonment and searches for her missing family on her way to becoming this superhero known as Silk. The show marks one of the first to feature a Korean-American superhero at its center. Angela Kang had some very positive things, exciting things to say about it. So not just confirmation that the Silk show is still alive, but also we're getting a slate of, this is the first of a slate of Sony Spider-Verse centered characters to be on Amazon Prime. What do you think about that?
So, a few things. One, they didn't say any other projects, right? Like, they didn't name any other projects.
Correct. No, they just said this was the first.
I feel like everyone who's like, oh, Sony's doing their TV slate. Like, well, let's scale it back a bit. One franchise, one show is not a slate. And so let's see when they actually deliver not only Silk, but more than just Silk. That said, I have had a fact or fiction in the bank that I've been sitting on for months related to Silk. And I wasn't necessarily waiting for confirmation the show was still going to happen, but I had a caveat of if the show is still happening at the end of it. That said, it's like, okay, well, I think I can remove that part at least, and I'll save it for another week. But I'm excited for the show. I've long thought that Spider-Man would be great on TV show a la like Smallville, right? Like I've long thought that the character, like it just, a high school show with Spider-Man with a teen hero, like it just lends itself to like that kind of format. Yeah, I'm into it. I'll check it out for sure. I'm definitely excited about it. Am I as excited for it as I am all the Marvel Studios stuff? Of course not. But in general, Silk's a cool character. It's a cool concept that the spider that bit her is the same spider that bit Peter. And not to mention, I very much remember what happens with her character when she's first introduced and the connection with, let's say, Ezekiel. And, that's a character I really enjoy. So I'm into it. Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah, it again, like you said, a one project does not make a slate, but I do like the positivity. I like the people that are going to be kind of leading behind the scenes, Lord and Miller at that point. So we know the pedigree they're coming one. That gives it a boost of confidence. when it comes to our showrunner for this, Miss Kang, hey, say what you want about The Walking Dead, a successful series, one that she has been on and helped lead in that room. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting project. I'm glad it's still alive. Silka's a very interesting character, a very different character. But my thing is like, okay, we're going to be universe building with this. So where do we go with this character? Besides building who she is as Cindy Moon, what else are we going to be building with this? That's what's exciting to me.
Silver and Black finally coming.
Oh, no, I'm thinking jackpot, baby. Come on.
Oh, gosh, you would. You would. No.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Sony would do it. Sony would do it. We are getting a Craven movie.
You're not wrong.
And Madam Web, but she is the blueprint.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So we will catch you next week again, Friday night, 9:10 Eastern Standard Time, for our review of Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Stay safe out there. Bye-bye.